Greetings, fellow men. Servus Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. So, there is finally a little bit of good news in the fatherland. We have news now that the mainstream media, the traditional established media in Germany, is in really bad shape. And we know this for a long time, but the trend continues actually. New numbers were published very recently that show that the print media in Germany, the weekly and daily newspapers, are really in bad shape. The only exception is a conservative newspaper, Die Junge Freiheit, a very good newspaper I think, and also a communist newspaper called Der Freitag. So that means people are really getting fed up by the mainstream media and their official news, basically, the state-sanctioned news. So first I want to give you an example of why people really don't like the German mainstream media anymore. I also want to explain to you why it is not that easy to get rid of the established media in Germany, and how pathetic and desperate the German media has become in order to turn this trend around, and why it is only making it worse. So I want to start off with an example for the typical lying media, die Lügenpresse in Germany. As you all know, maybe, there was recently this Milo speech scheduled at Berkeley University. And there were riots from the left, Antifa riots, very brutal riots actually, and so the speech had to be called off. Now the German media covered this incident, of course, and of course they demonized Milo, who is basically a provocateur, but basically a moderate, a centrist. They said he's a far-right extremist. Which is ridiculous, because I don't know what kind of far-right stance Milo ever took. I mean, yeah, he's provoking SJWs, he's trolling them, but he's not at all far-right. He's very moderate, actually. They then went on to say that there were student riots and that they set barricades on fire and they smashed windows. Excuse me, smashed windows? Yes, there were windows being smashed. Yes, that is true. But the smashed windows are hardly the news in that story. When Germany invaded Poland, I think a car crash in Lodz or Warsaw is not front page news. People were viciously attacked. They were beaten with sticks and flagpoles. They were pepper sprayed without any provocation at all. People were hunted down the street. And of course, all these social democrats, all the liberal mainstream leftists, they are not distancing themselves from that. They are not calling out these radicals, these dangerous, violent radicals. I think they are applauding that. They are doubling down on their message that Trump is Hitler and we have to smash fascism, even though there is no fascism to be found anywhere here. And I checked all the major German online news portals. None of them actually reported about Trump supporters being attacked and hurt. They called the rioters student protesters. They called Milo a far right-winged extremist. And this amount of misinformation throughout the board of established media portals in Germany is just the constant brainwashing that is going on. But over the years, over the decades even I should say, many Germans actually have noticed what is going on and they're sick and tired of it. And this is one of the many reasons why sales and subscription numbers are in free fall for a long time already. Other reasons are of course the new media, but as you see, a right-wing newspaper, a patriotic newspaper, and also a communist newspaper who is also not just repeating the mainstream ideas, they have a increasing readership. And that has nothing to do with social media and people reading online news. I mean, even the online news has a hard time in the mainstream media in Germany right now. So these are just excuses. Now this should be and is a reason for celebration to every patriotic German. However, it is not that easy, because only the print media are actually competing on the free market in Germany. For broadcasting, so radio and television, there is no free market in Germany. we have a great part of our broadcasting is actually state run, and we have to pay a household fee or tax for our broadcasting service actually. That means that even though nobody is watching these news and everyone hates it and they lie to the German people, they mock and insult the German people, but we still have to pay for it. Otherwise you go to jail. They send people to jail for not paying this fee. They go after these people very aggressively because they know that their jobs are at stake. And when you look into it, actually not a lot of this money, and I think it was over 8 billion euros in 2015, and it's just getting more. The recent numbers have not been out yet, but 8 billion, can you believe that? And most of that money, or a big chunk at least, is actually going to pension payments, because these people who work at these broadcasting institutions, they are of course officers. They are basically officers of the state in charge of propaganda, of brainwashing the Germans and keeping them in the dark. And they don't retire like German workers. They don't have to save for their retirement. No, they get fat pensions. And if you look at the pensions, they have been rising even more than twice the rate that the retirement payments from companies or what people could save. So if you are paying into the social security system as a German worker, you are actually getting way less when you're retired than these pensioners that never paid a single cent into our public system, right? Into these social security systems. They don't pay, and their payments that they receive is actually rising at twice the rate, even though they never paid a cent into the system. And this is one of the reasons why they increase always this fee that people have to pay, and why they don't allow you to opt out of this system. Every household in Germany has to pay for this. Even people who are on welfare have to pay for this. And this is the sad reason why we cannot get rid of this brainwashing by just not consuming these media channels. Because no matter if you watch it or not, no matter if you tune in on the radio or not, you're paying either way. And this is what the newspapers also want. So there are people in the print media business already in Germany who actually demand the same. They actually want the state to create a kind of fee that would subsidize traditional print media in Germany. That is insane, because no one wants to read that shit anymore. They're just asking the government to take it from the people. That is how insane they have become. But they are actually just afraid. They are really freaking out because they could lose their jobs. And I'm honest here, I want them to lose their jobs. Not because I wish them harm, but they do harm to the German people. And they should just find other work. I wish they could find an honest job. I don't want them to be miserable. I just want them to stop what they're doing, because they're hurting the German people with this brainwashing. And a couple of examples of how desperate and vicious they have become is this. Look at this cover of the magazine Der Spiegel, one of the biggest weekly newspapers in Germany. And they are comparing Donald Trump to an ISIS terrorist who beheads Christians. Look at that. This is how desperate they have become. And here another example from the second German broadcasting service, ZDF. I know it's all just funny, it's all just satire, right? But they again compare Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler. They do this all the time. And he hasn't even done anything catastrophic yet. He hasn't attacked any country. He hasn't executed anyone. He's not rounding up refugees and putting them in concentration camps. So what if during his presidency of 4 or maybe even 8 years, what if there comes a point where he actually does something despicable that one could criticize, you know? Where do they go from there? I mean, they have already called him an ISIS terrorist. They have already called him Hitler. What is the next level? I mean, it seems like they went through all their powder already, you know? They have wasted all their ammunition already at the beginning. What is the next level? What is the next insult that they could actually use here then? So what I really want to see by the German people is that they would write letters to their representatives and ask them what are they doing to defund the public broadcasting sector. And just expose the mainstream media wherever you can. Call them out on their lies. Don't buy their products. Don't tune in on the radio. Throw out your TV, because not only does it give money to them, it also makes you more stupid. This constant brainwashing is making you more stupid. I mean, I consume it sometimes to see what the enemy is up to, but it is strictly for gathering information. I'm not really watching it in any other mindset than gathering information about what the enemy is doing and how they react. So Germans must really pressure their members of parliament on the issue of defunding these state-run media broadcasting associations. This is a big waste of taxpayers' money that could be spent elsewhere, and we need our money more than ever before, and we shouldn't waste that money on people on the left with no tangible marketable skills who just want to be taken care of by everybody. This is all that this is. This whole state-run media business, ARD, ZDF, this is just a big affirmative action thing for useless leftist people. And they're not only costing us a lot of money, they are also hurting the people with propaganda, brainwashing, and misinformation. If you want to see the real news, if you want to see the real issues, real journalism, then go to the alternative media. For example, here, Stefan Molyneux interviewed one of the women who was attacked in Berkeley. This is real in-depth information. You get the interview exclusively there, and none of the mainstream media type of people was interested in interviewing that woman. If you want to really hear what's going on, if you want to see all the facts, go to the alternative media. So I don't think a smashed window was the news here, but if you want to hear what the actual news was, then watch that video. So I would urge every German and American patriot, or any other patriot of any other country for that matter, if your media in your country is anything like that, just cancel all your subscriptions, throw out your TV, and pressure your politicians on the issue of defunding. And also I think it's great that President Trump is bringing up the topic of defunding Berkeley University. As a little side note at the end, I've been at Berkeley University for a brief time, and I can just say it's one of the most overrated research institutions on the face of the planet. They get so much funding, and their results are so mediocre, and their students there have such inflated egos. They're only cooking with water, as we say in Germany. They're not better than any other researchers in the Western world, but they think they're really the best, you know. This arrogance goes to a point where it really hurts them. If these special snowflakes would actually go to work in the industry or in another research institution where they cannot dump all the work on technicians or something like that, where they have to do the actual work themselves, they would start crying and run away. This is what I have seen at Berkeley University. This is what I've seen of the researchers there, and I was not impressed. And I think if Donald Trump actually defunds Berkeley, it wouldn't be a loss to science. So I know what they will say. They will say, oh, he's anti-science. No, he's not anti-science, he's anti-Berkeley. And there are other universities who also do science and who would do a better job, because there would be less social justice for the dollar and more actual science for the dollar. And this is what research institutions that are publicly funded should think about. They're not paid for brainwashing young people. They're paid to produce scientific results and educating the young generation on actual important topics, like foreign languages or like engineering and science and law and medicine, and not filling their heads with stupid bullshit. And they really have a problem now, because this did not just take place at Berkeley. No, they actually participated in the riots. There were 100 teachers from Berkeley, or professors or something, right? And they took part in these actions. So Berkeley has a big problem now, as I see it, and I hope that Donald Trump did not just tweet that, but that he will actually follow through and cut their funding. The American worker and the American taxpayers should not pay for an institution that is this vile and morally corrupt. And this tax money, just as in the case of the German media, it can be put to better use, and we should defund these people if we have the opportunity. As I said in my previous videos, that's the worst fear of a leftist, having to do one day of honest labor. That is the worst thing for them. Let this become a reality. Let them work like the rest of us. Have a great weekend. Servus, Kameraden.